Well, you asked for it and Shimano delivered. That's Di2 at the 105 level. Shimano has just released the Di2 105 disc brake group set, and they trickled down pretty much everything from the top tier Dura-Ace and Ultegra down to the third tier group set, which is the 105. So this is really good news, because what's happened is Shimano have listened to people and now they've delivered what people have been asking for many years. So that's a really good thing. But there is a few sour grapes in this whole story. So let's roll that intro and let's have a bit of a look at what are a bit of the negatives about this whole change to this new 105 Di2 group set. Well, Shimano have done a number of things with this new group set. Now, when we had the old group set, it was considered to be the best bang for buck, or the budget group set of the higher tier designs. The design of the 105 was exactly the same as the Ultegra, exactly the same as the Dura-Ace, but it was just had not so light components of it that were made from lighter materials, so it was probably a little bit more rugged as well, but it was just a bit heavier. But the functionality of the 105 was pretty much the same as the top tier group set, so that made it ideal for people who wanted to mix and match things and who wanted to get something that performed like an Ultegra, performed like Dura-Ace, but at a price point that was between $2,000 to $4,000 AUD. So that's probably a little bit less US. So it was very good value, and that type of group set and bike was extremely popular, and that fit a lot of people's budgets. People could really throw together a couple of thousand or a few thousand, and maybe if they had a little bit more money, maybe $4,500. But generally people, unless they're a real keen cyclist, wouldn't spend over $5,000 AUD. So the question is how have Shimano changed their marketing and what products they're offering at this level? Now, the first thing that they've done is that there is no mechanical group set. There is only Di2. So it's not like you can opt for the more expensive Di2 group set on the 105 and still go to the mechanical and have a cheaper bike, or an option of purchasing a cheaper bike. It's still 105. All the components like cassettes and chains and everything can be swapped with Ultegra, but it just doesn't have the electric system. Well, they're not offering that, or not offering it at least at this point in time, and they're not saying they're going to be offering it in the near future. So that's a bit of a bummer for some people. The other point is there is not going to be any rim brake. There's only a disc brake only. Now, where that kind of relates to is the weight of the group set. Now, because it's electric and it's disc brake, the group set is pretty much the same weight as Rival, which I predicted in a previous video that Shimano would make the group set to match that Rival setup to get around about the same weight, and it is. It's just under 3 kilos, so it's pretty damn heavy in this configuration, and there is no option to go to a different group set, like a mechanical one, to maybe cut a bit of weight out, or go to a rim brake to cut a bit of weight out of that group set to get a little bit lighter, because when you're in that ballpark, the frames are not quite as light. You're probably running aluminium handlebars, not carbon handlebars. You're not running one piece. There may be a stem and all separate, and everything's a little bit heavier. So the weight of the bike all adds up, and you're probably going to have a bike, as I've said in previous videos, could be 8 to 9 kilos. Now, I know people say, oh yeah, look, you can get these bikes down, and you can, but you have to then buy real expensive components, all those little accessory components, to really get that weight down, because unlike a rim brake bike, it was pretty easy to get it under the UCI limit, and you could even get them down to like pretty easy to like 6 kilos. I've even heard of bikes 5.5 kilos. There's no way you get a disc brake bike at that sort of weight. So when you're looking at those mid-tier bikes, of course, everything's a little bit heavier. So then you're struggling to get your bike down into the 7 kilo range, 7-something kilo range, because everything's much heavier. So that is actually a bit of a disadvantage, because you can't go, oh look, I'll go for the rim brake bike, I'll go for the non-electric bike, which adds weight, and then try and get a bit of weight out of the group set, because now that option is not available. Now there's a few technical pieces that have come out which are slightly different to the old Tegra and the Dura-Ace. The buttons on top, like the selection buttons, aren't there where you could click through the different menus. I believe that's what they could do, or you could map them. I think you can map them in the new 12-speed to do different functions. But the other little bit of a bummer is now, because you can only get electric in Dura-Ace, Ultegra, and 105, which is all the 3 top tier group sets. Shimano have locked out Hammerhead from having that functionality that relates to the electric group set, and Shimano aren't offering any mechanicals. So it's not like if you go, oh look, I've got a mechanical group set, it doesn't matter if I don't see that functionality. You're just not getting it with the Hammerhead. But Shimano are only offering an electric group set, and one of the main contenders that's I think is a pretty good unit, one of the top end computers, one of the 3 top end ones, you can't get that information on it, which is pretty miserable. If they're gonna, Shimano, you'd think if they're gonna offer electric only, they would allow these other computers to be able to use that functionality, because it helps sell their products as well. So in conclusion, what's my thoughts on this? Now, my thoughts are, from what I've just said, is that I think Shimano may have shot themselves in the foot a little bit here. It's great to see that you can go and now buy a disc brake Di2 105 group set that has all of the functionality of Ultegra and Dura-Ace, and that's a really good thing. But unfortunately, what it's done is it significantly moved the group set into a completely different budget point for consumers. And what was before, like in Australia, around about a $1,200 or maybe $1,200 to $1,500 group set, now we're going to have a group set that's pushing $3,000. So they've almost doubled the price. Now $3,000 for a group set is pretty steep, considering it's a 105. It's a hard pill to swallow when people have been used to paying something a lot lower for this level of group set. And it's kind of gone up into what we used to pay for. I remember Super Record Mechanical was just over $3,300. I remember pricing it up. So these prices for 105 group set, okay, it's electric, okay, it's got disc brakes, are really as expensive as what we had just a few years ago for the top end mechanical group sets. So that's the kind of level we're at. We're at Dura-Ace, Super Record, red levels of the old mechanical systems, but now in a 105 system because it's electric. And I think what this is going to do, it's going to have a huge impact on the amount of people that actually buy the 105 system, because you're just pushing the whole bikes into a whole new price bracket, because the 105s will be, obviously the frames will be a bit more than they were a few years ago. The other components will be a bit more than they were a few years ago because of inflation. And that all adds up on the whole bike and wheels as well. And you're going to have a bike now with 105 that's going to be over $5,000 AUD. And I think that people will see this as prohibitively expensive who are in that mid-tier budget, who don't really want to spend that sort of money. And it's going to impact, I think, on sales of the 105. People probably be going for the Tegra or the lower group sets, or may even be buying another brand, especially if they've got a Hammerhead computer. So I think as far as marketing goes, this is a little bit of a negative in Shimano's camp, because I did expect that this would be a significantly amount more, but I didn't think it would be double. I think it probably would have been about 2/3 dearer, so go up to around about 2,000 or a little bit over 2,000, 2,200, but it's not. It's double, if not slightly more than double, which I think is, yeah, I think it's just putting that whole 105 group set into a completely different budget point for people. Well, anyway, guys, you tell me, what do you think about this group set? It's almost 3 kilos, and it's $3,000 AUD, and yeah, it's got all the goodies on it, but do you really think at that weight and at that price that people will be prepared to pay that sort of money for this kind of mid-tier group set? Leave your comments down below. And guys, remember to like and share the video. That'd be really appreciated, because it helps push this information out into the internet. And I like to give a little bit of a different take on cycling and cycling components. Well, anyway, guys, don't be a ninja watcher. And remember to subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and click that bell so you don't miss any of my content into the future. That'd be really appreciated. Okay, guys, that's where I'm going to leave it, and I'll see you next vid.